Hey folks, this is Yuri Karasawa with Japan Ball, 12 NPB team previews in 12 days, and we move forward today with the Orix Buffaloes. They won the pennant from 2021 to 2023, including a Japan Series title in 2022, but last year was a different story. They go 63, 77, and 3 to finish in 5th place, a 96 OPS plus as a team, so a bit below average, and a 103 ERA plus, which is a bit above average, but I would say that they underperformed actually there relative to the talent level. And then negative 25 defensive runs saved is not the worst in the league, but is also not very good. So they missed the playoffs. And what did they do over the offseason to get better? Well, they added Aaron Curry from the Hiroshima Carp, a longtime member of their rotation for the past decade or so definitely gives them quite a bit of depth now in the rotation, even more depth, I should say, because they already have quite a bit. Keisuke Honda, a relief pitcher coming over from the Seibu Lions via the active player draft, and then 2 imports in Jordan Diaz, an infielder who was with the Athletics, really good numbers in AAA, and still very young, only 24 years old, so a guy they can invest in for the long haul. Edward Oliveira is also who last played for the Pirates, is an outfielder. Notable subtractions, the big ones that aren't here are the ones from, a couple off seasons ago now. So Masataka Yoshida going to the Red Sox and Yoshinobu Yamamoto going to the Dodgers. They ended up getting a pretty hefty sum of money for those two in terms of the posting fee, but obviously not having those 2 superstars now on this team, they look quite a bit different. So I think they've done a pretty good job to make up for the losses, but it definitely is a lot harder than it used to be without those, 2 at the top. But over this winter, Luis Castillo, who was in their rotation last year, he was with the Lotte Marines before that. He leaves to go to the Seattle Mariners, so actually the Mariners now have 2 Luis Castillos. Motoki Higa, longtime relief pitcher, the pride of Okinawa, he is gone. He has retired. Leandro Cedeno was with them for 2 years. Nice kind of first base DH slugger. He's now with the Seibu Lions through free agency. Ryoichi Adachi, a infielder who was with them for the last 12 years or so, has retired as well. Marwin Gonzalez, who played a pretty big role in 2023, he has retired. T. Okada, one of the most successful sluggers of this generation, he has finally retired. And then Tatsuya Yamaashi going to Hiroshima via the active player draft. So definitely a lot of losses, but also some pretty good additions. 2024 NPB Draft, they went for Misho Nishikawa, a college outfielder with their first pick, lost the lottery to Lotte, and then they pivot to Yusuke Mugitani, who was also a college outfielder, so he definitely expects to be, a potential center fielder for them in 2025. And then they grabbed 2 pitchers, Naruki Teranishi and Leo Yamaguchi, with their next 2 picks. Always excited to see what Orix can do with pitching prospects, because they are absolutely on the cutting edge when it comes to developing arms. 2024 hitting leaders. So Tomoya Mori stepped in 2 years ago and put up production that was almost on par with Masataka Yoshida. So they almost didn't feel his loss 2 years ago. But last year wasn't quite as good for him. I mean, he's still amazing. A 145 OPS plus, leads the team by a pretty significant margin. But he has missed some time over the past few years, and they signed him as a catcher, but I think over time they do expect him to kind of transition more into either a hybrid between catcher and corner outfield or just DH. The important part is they need his bat in the lineup, because this is a guy who strikes out very little, and he provides a lot in the way of on-base percentage, slugging, basically everything you want. So you need Mori to be at the front and center of your lineup. Cedeno hit 15 home runs, which led the team. He's gone now. He's with Seibu. Ryo Ota with a breakout, 91 games, 16 doubles, 6 homers, a 134 OPS plus. If he improves his defense at second base, this guy is a star in the making. Masahiro Nishino, who played kind of a platoon role, hitting 300 with a 121 OPS plus. Did not see that coming. A sub 10% strikeout rate as well. So, we'll have to see if he can repeat that in 2025 because he hadn't really shown this level in the past, but a good piece of infield depth there. Yutaro Sugimoto, he won the Pacific League home run title like 4 years ago. He's definitely taken a step back since then, but he's still a dangerous bat, to say the least. I mean, a 119 OPS plus, so definitely still has some value providing pop. Roman Ichikawa was their big free agent acquisition last year from the Carp. He had a really rough debut season with them. Does end up getting to 100 OPS plus, so right around league average. But we've seen him with the Carp be much closer into like the 125, 130 territory. A really good kind of bat control guy that can do a little bit of everything. 11 stolen bases last year, 25 doubles. Some of those counting stats aren't too bad, but you definitely want to see a little bit more from him. Kotaro Kuribayashi is this team's young shortstop. He's kind of stagnated offensively the past few years, but definitely in terms of ceiling, very high, and he's made some improvements defensively as well. Kosei Osato was a rookie who didn't look too shabby, so he should factor into the infield mix this year. Yuma Tongu, disappointing 2024 season after being one of the best hitters on the team in 2023. He won the batting title, and then the following year down to 197. Now, he has a fly ball approach, and that typically means the BABIP, the batting average on balls in play, can be kind of volatile. So it makes sense that the batting average dipped, but to see the slugging numbers as poor as they were, that was a big disappointment. So hopefully he can bounce back. And then they got some other guys there like Keita Nakagawa, Yuma Mune, who have been very important pieces in their championship run. They just did not hit last year at all. 2024 pitching leaders, this is the Buffalo's biggest strength by far, even without Yamamoto. They have just done such an amazing job of building up a ton of depth and high-end talent on top of it. So they kind of have the best of both worlds. Haruya Miyagi is arguably the number one pitcher in NPB. I think people would have a very hard time saying it's anyone other than him or Takahashi. I personally like Miyagi the most. Southpaw, who has really deep arsenal. The secondaries are just absolutely wicked, and he is, excellent at locating the ball. So I think Miyagi does pretty much everything perfectly. Sub 2 ERA last year in 142 innings. I think he's going to just keep getting better and better. Shinpeita Yamashita won Rookie of the Year in 2023. Last year wasn't quite as good, but, his last 2 months of the season were incredible. I mean, the first half was really rough. The ERA was up in the 6s. He just could not command the ball at all. But you see the 31% strikeout rate as a starter. I mean, that is, Roki Sasaki type stuff. So I think Yamashita and Miyagi, these are both, tier 1 pitchers in NPB, guys who you can very much expect to be frontline guys and give you some dominant outings every time out. Ryuhei Sotani with a breakout season. This was his sophomore campaign, a 124 ERA plus. Really good strikeout numbers as well. So already, that is a sick front three. But then you add to that someone like Anderson Espinoza, who has, a really nice two-seamer. You add a guy like Kohei Azuma, who, didn't have the biggest success last year, but in 2023, he was undefeated in the second half, played a big role getting them to the Japan series. Daiki Tajima has been, a good depth piece in the back end of the rotation for a while now. Kyosuke Saito, one of their top prospects. They just have a ton of young starters with a lot of upside. Bullpen-wise, they have Seiryu Kotajima, who put up a 0.79 ERA as a rookie. They were thinking of stretching him out as a starter this year, but due to circumstances around the bullpen with injuries to Kosei Yoshida and Yuki Utagawa, they decided to keep him in the pen. And then they have, Andres Machado, who's an excellent closer, very high strikeout rate, throws up to, 99 miles per hour. Nobuyoshi Yamada, a good left-handed reliever as well. So they had quite a few injuries last year, but they were still kind of piecing things together and doing an adequate job, although not quite elite. So here's how they line up in 2025. Behind the plate, the tandem is Kenya Wakatsuki and Tomoya Mori. Wakatsuki better defensively, did not hit much last year, but has been pretty good in the past. And then at first base, Yumatongu, hopefully he can bounce back. I mean, this is a 25 homer type bat when he's right. But they did bring in Jordan Diaz, so that would be a natural place for him to slide in as well. Middle infield tandem should be Kotaro Kuribayashi and Ryo Ota. Again, both those guys very young and a lot of upside in the way of hitting. Defensively, I would say among the weaker in NPB, but I think they can definitely continue to improve. Third base, Yumamune has won a ton of Gold Gloves. The advanced metrics don't really love him there, but he's kind of a spark plug at the top of the lineup. He can very much get on base at a high clip, even if he's not slugging, but last year wasn't good. So quite a few question marks on the infield, but there's enough youth and there's enough depth with, guys like Nishino, Osato, Tomoya Noguchi was one of their top prospects who looked really good 2 years ago. So I think they can piece things together. Outfield, Roma Nishikawa in left. Again, if we look at last year as just kind of an outlier in a bad way, I think he can get back to kind of a star level and give this team a lot in the way of hitting for average and a little bit of power. Center field is probably going to be between Keita Nakagawa or the rookie Yusuke Mugitani. It all depends how much Mugitani can adapt quickly and hit. Nakagawa is really kind of a super utility guy. He can really play anywhere on the field, so he doesn't necessarily have to be locked into center. In fact, I think if Mugitani or Shuhei Fukuda even, if they're the full-time center fielder playing good defense there, I think that does make the team better overall because you have Nakagawa that can kind of roam around all over. Right field, you have Yutaro Sugimoto, not good defensively, but again, he's so explosive that you kind of have to just see every year, like, can he get back to that similar level he showed, when he was among the best hitters in NPB? If not, you have a younger prospect like Kita who might be ready to step in. Mori can play out there, Olivares, they have plenty of options. And then DH, I think, will be, Tomoya Mori will get some at-bats there. Edward Olivares will get some chances. Sugimoto. So this team will definitely have to rely on Mori to continue to give them that superstar production. But with guys like Ryo Ota continuing to improve, Nishikawa and Tongu maybe bouncing back, they definitely have enough there to where they can be an above average offense. But really what they should strive to be is at least average. Just don't be a bad offense, and then the pitching is going to take you a long ways because, like I said, Miyagi, Yamashita, Sotani, I'm taking that front three over any other in NPB. I mean, that is arguably 3 top 10 pitchers in all of Japan. Miyagi and Sotani from the left side, Yamashita up to 100 miles per hour from the right side with a devastating splitter and curveball off of it. Espinoza gives, Japanese hitters kind of an interesting look because he throws kind of these harder two-seamers that you don't really get to see much of in NPB. Curry, I don't really view him as like a top of the rotation arm, but definitely, slotting in here towards the back end. I like that a lot. He's really a guy that only has one good pitch in the changeup, but it's such a good pitch that he can really give you pretty consistent results off of it. And then, Tajima's been there for a long time. Azuma throws fairly hard, has a nice death ball off of it. And they also have prospects in Kyosuke Saito, who was pitching in Australia over the winter, Ren Mukunoki, who almost threw a no-hitter in his first career start. So this team is just loaded with starting pitching talent. And then in the bullpen, they have guys like Machado, Kotajima, Yamada, who I've already mentioned, but also Taisuke Yamaoka, who was a former top starter. He's had some injuries. He's also dealing with a off-the-field gambling scandal right now that left him suspended for a bit. But once he comes back, big arm to put in the back of the bullpen. Perdomo coming over midway last year. He was a guy that pitched with the Lotte Marines in a late inning capacity 2 years ago, was very successful, left Japan, at the start of last year, but came back and had some really good numbers. And then Soichiro Yamazaki can run it up to 100 miles per hour. He was on Samurai Japan at the WBC. Yoshihisa Hirano, former MLB pitcher, not really viewed as the closer anymore, but in a lower leverage capacity, I think he can still do good. And then the two Hondas. So I definitely think the Orix Buffaloes can get back into the playoffs here in 2025. They do have a new manager in Mamoru Kishida after Satoshi Nakajima, who I think was one of the best in the business, stepped down. And I think that's going to be kind of a wake-up call to the players that, you just can't be content with what you had before. You got to really step it up. So, there are enough things that could go wrong that I wouldn't be shocked if they missed the playoffs again. Last year, it was kind of a big surprise, to see these, three-time reigning pennant winners be so bad, but I think there was some unluckiness in there as well with the injuries. But the rotation is just much too good for them to not at least sneak into the playoffs. So I think anything short of that would be viewed as a failure. But I guess we'll have to wait and see.